Good afternoon. This is Laws 11057, Introduction to Law. It's week 12. It's the final week, and we're just going to review the examination and ask for any general questions or receive any general comments. On the front page of Moodle, you'll see the exam format. I assume that you've all seen that and understood that by now. It's relatively straightforward. 6 of 7 questions, each one of equal value, 10 marks each. Therefore, 60% of the overall assessment for this course is the examination. As I recall, it's 3 hours. I believe it's the 7th of October, but you'll know better than me. I'm looking for any nods or acknowledgements. I think it is. 3 hours, essentially open book. You've got plenty of hints as to what's going to be on the exam. And what that means, of course, is that in essence, I hate to say it, but because there are so many hints, the standard expected is higher than if it was a closed book exam. And I think it really is a myth, that closed books exams are harder and better test of knowledge. My personal view is that, and I don't mean to scare you by this comment, but when I was a student, everything was completely closed book. Nothing at all allowed to take in, no notes, anything. 3 hours, and it was a single exam for the whole course, for the whole year. And really, a lot of it was memory, being able to memorize the case names and the citations or whatever it might be. And as a result, I think that was, in a way, easier than the open book exams where you need to explain things. So if you haven't already done so, I expect that you would have had quite comprehensive notes, and many of you would have even written substantial parts of what you believe will be on the examination question. I trust that what I've put on Moodle is at least understandable. So you won't know exactly what's on the paper, but you'll be able to understand what I've written there in terms of the options. So if there's any questions in relation to the exam, please let me know. Now, I rang Latia, I've opened rang the exam centre to confirm a few things. They said we can definitely take handwritten notes or typed notes, pre-prepared answers, yes, and you can definitely take in your own notes. Open book includes textbooks, the rules, the constitution, legal dictionary, your own notes, absolutely. There's no problem with that. Does anyone disagree with anything that I've said so far? Has anyone been told anything contrary to what I've been saying? Doesn't appear to be anyone saying no to that. And the ordinary dictionary is allowed in as well. Thank you, Robin. There's no word limit on answers, that's true, but as a guide, would there be a minimum number of words you expect? No, there wouldn't be. I mean, I guess one disadvantage of a test of this nature is to a degree it tests your ability to handwrite and how quick you are. I'm pretty good at picking up on words, so if your handwriting's a bit scrappy, don't worry. I'm normally able to pick it up pretty quickly. But no, there's no minimums. What I would suggest is that if you're running out of time, make sure that you at least put down a few words, even if it's dot point. It's fair to say that the first 5 marks are much easier to gain than the second 5 marks. So you might as well put something down. One little trick that people used to use back in my days, and probably still do, was that if you really didn't know anything about a particular topic and you just knew a few things, well, you'd write a few words down and pretend that you ran out of time, as opposed to actually admitting that you didn't know. So I'll be on to that one. We'd like to see correct referencing in the exam. I'd like to see an acknowledgement. It doesn't have to be exactly the formal legal citation method of referencing, but if you're quoting something from a case or from a text, why not reference that rather than plagiarise is probably the simple thing that I'd suggest there. Hi Jason, how you doing? All right, so any questions? Did you want to ask a question, Jason? I've just muted your microphone.
No, sorry, I just got the email come through just now. That's why I'm a bit late.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Jason. And Gordon's joined us as well. Hello, Gordon. Just looking to see who else has joined us. So during orientation, a suggestion to write on every second line in exams to make it clearer. That's not a bad idea. You don't have to. But if you think that that's going to make it a bit easier, then by all means do so. G'day, Tony. I'm just going to mute your microphone, Tony. All right. So, yeah, you can do that. In referencing a case, do we write the case name or the citation? Generally, both. You'd write the case name and the citation if you've got it handy. If it's a well-known case, don't worry too much. I mean, in the exam, if you're going to refer to the Mabo case, I don't mind if you just say the Mabo in the Mabo case, or the High Court in Mabo said. I mean, we all know where it is. We all know that you know the citation. So you can add it in, but you're not going to be marked down, because the idea of the citation, the idea of referencing, is to acknowledge something that exists. And, you know, if you say to me, in James and Field at page 42, well, we all know what that is. So you don't have to worry about indicating that it's published by Wiley, etc. So there'll be a lot of common sense in that regard. I hope that makes sense. All right. Is the question about undertaking legal research about the practical guide to legal research, or is it chapter 6 of New Lawyer? Either one is good. And it might be, and I'm not saying that there is a question on legal research, but I'm saying it's one that could well be on the paper. In that regard, it might be your own comments, or it might be your own techniques. It might be a reference to the way in which you use LexisNexis or Ostly, NoteUp, etc. So there's no one source of potential reference material for the legal research question, if there is a legal research question. Any other questions coming through? You can ask live if you wish, or you can just type it through the chat facility. All right, so I'm just looking at borrowing Wayne Jones' excellent PowerPoint notes here. I won't show you what they are, but I'll just give you an idea. He's made reference to a book by Richard Crever, Mastering Law Studies and Exam Techniques, 7th edition, LexisNexis publication, and chapter 5 is of that is in his subject. 180 minutes, 15 minutes perusal, open book, take in whatever you like, but you can't connect to the internet, no calculators. Write in the examination answer booklet. I take it that many of you wouldn't have done a CQU exam before, so it'll all be in a sense a bit new, but you'll have an answer booklet. Don't worry, if you need more, they will give you a second booklet or a third booklet if you get really excited about it. So you don't have to be particularly economical in the use of the paper. Essay style questions, yes. I'm looking for your understanding of the way in which the law is to be applied in particular in the particular questions. So it's not just a matter of, if you like, cutting and pasting, but adding some commentary as well. All right. I would recommend that you consider the IRAC method as a general rule, or something along those lines to add some structure. Most legal questions can be answered in that regard. All right, and I've been through Wayne's PowerPoint. I think that's probably all I need to mention to you. All right.
John, it's Robin.
Yes, Robin.
I don't want to scare anyone, but Wayne was saying in statutory interpretation that there was once an issue where somebody showed up to an exam and they were told they were not allowed to take any materials in, even though it was an open book exam. What do we do in that situation if that occurs? Do we call you, or do we call the uni, or what do we do?
You're muted, John.
Thank you, Melissa. Yes, by all means, you can phone me. I don't know if I'd be able to take the call at the time, though. Does anyone know what time the exam is on and can confirm the date that the exam is on?
John, Robin, I've done quite a few exams up at JCU before. It won't be a drama, mate. There's always a CQU uni rep up there, and I haven't had an issue in the 4 years I've been doing exams up there with OH&S anyway. So I don't think we're going to have a drama.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
Great. Now I'm getting some answers, people saying 2 p.m. on the 7th, although I did get one answer saying 1:30 p.m. Maybe are you in a different state, Latia? Adelaide time 2 o'clock, Sydney time 2 o'clock, Cairns 1:15 p.m, 2 o'clock in Gladstone. We're getting some different times here. All right, well, I'll be on the ready on the 7th of October, and by all means you can raise the alarm with me and I'll do my best to respond, but hopefully we won't have any issues. But thank you for that, Robin. 30 minutes prior for perusal. 30 minutes perusal, right. Is that what it is, 30 minutes, not 15 minutes? Okay, that's a long perusal. 30 minutes it is. Okay, that's good. All right. Well, I would be very disappointed if anyone has any problems, and I hope that you're ready to go with your exam by the time you get there.
Don, it's sorry.
You're right.
I've been working on this list of information that you've provided to us regarding possible subjects to focus on for the exam. Can you just explain a little bit further about the two that say the process of taking instructions from a client? So you've got there, one says taking instructions from a client and preparing proceedings, and the other one is taking instructions from a client and appearing as an advocate. Mm-hmm. I understand the end bits of those, but can you talk a little bit more about the instructions from a client?
Yes, no, that's a really good question. It's probably fair to say that those items, 4 and 5, which is the process of taking instructions from a client and preparing proceedings, and the process of taking instructions from a client and appearing as advocate, are somewhat closely aligned to the succession of issues that we've dealt with over the past 3 weeks. And it's that issue of putting yourself in the shoes of a practitioner with a client in front of you and telling the examiner, which is me, how you would go about that process. To some degree, you might interpret that as being from a practical perspective, from a legal perspective, from a holistic perspective, but the whole shebang of taking instructions. Now, it might seem silly, but you might think it's important to say that you'll be in an area where confidentiality can physically be protected, in that the door is closed or you're taking interviews in a secure environment. So I think that's kind of important, so that you're understanding. What I'm wanting to do is test your ability to understand what's actually involved in that process and how would you execute in that situation, that scenario. And then you can go into talking about the legal side of it as well. So it's the legal, the ethical, the practical, talking about your obligations to the client, to the law, all those sorts of things. Very, very broad parameters for 4 and 5. So thank you, Robin. I hope that answers your question. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay. All right. Well, I hope you're all preparing well for the exam. If there's no more questions, I've got nothing further to say. So I'll wrap up shortly, stop the recording. But before I do, I just want to thank all of you so much for your participation levels. I think that you've been a tremendous class. I've really enjoyed having both Moodle and UCrew. If I had to choose between the two, it probably won't surprise you if I say UCrew. I found that a more interesting format. I know some of you, Tim, you weren't keen on it, and a few others weren't keen, preferring Moodle. So I hope there's a way that the university can integrate the two. But as you know, you were the guinea pigs in relation to UCRU, and I think you all adapted to it extremely well. I'd be interested for your thoughts on UCRU, if you'd like to communicate those to me as well. If, for example, you've set up study forums or study groups through UCRU, please let me know, and for your general thoughts on it, I'd be most interested. But you've been a very keen class, very capable class, and I hope you all do really well in the exam, and I hope that you go on and do the university proud, as I'm sure you'll do once you complete your studies and start working either in the law or something associated with the law. All right. There's one final question, I think. Which past papers do you address? Well, you can address, it's probably the sensible answer is have a look at what I did last year in term 3, which I think is available. So I wrote that exam. There's no multiple choice, of course, in your exam, so forget all of that. The way I taught this subject last year was quite different to the way I've coordinated it this year. It was much broader last year. This has been more focused. Okay. All right. Well, unless there's any questions or comments, I'll stop the recording now, and all the very best, and good luck with the exam.